With this introduction of these big themes and how they relate to one another, democracy, nation state, security, and so on, it will be very interesting to have this analyzed from the French, German, and British EU point of view. And this is the remainder of this session. And we start with Germany. And the title here is Germany as a status quo power. And my question is it possible for Germany to remain a status quo power given AfD and criticism of Chancellor Merkel? Ulrich Speck from the Aspen Institute of Germany, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to stand here as everybody else. I'm looking more at the international aspects. I'm looking less on a rise of populism and Euroscepticism. It's certainly part of the picture, but I still think in Germany we have 80% of parties centrist, whether it's the SPD, CDU, the Greens, FDP. We have a very broad consensus in favor of current policies, so there is a lot of stability. Yes, we have AfD now at 14, and we have a left-wing party, but I think the center holds in Germany. And I think this has to do with the role Germany is playing and with the international system from which it profits. So we heard a lot about the changing international order. Major powers are unhappy with the status quo. China, Russia, advancing. We could discuss to what extent they're really successful. Do they have soft power? But at least there is an aspiration. There's a new dynamic. We see it in the South China Sea. We see it with the Belt and Road Project initiative. And we see, of course, Russia. Stoltenberg talked about this morning. But we also see the new dynamic in the United States, which is I wouldn't say it has lost an empire, but it's certainly looking for a new role. And this is, I think, part of this challenge, figuring out, for us as mere spectators, where the US is heading. We just don't know. But also in Europe, Brexit obviously is a major change, and it's going to impact the EU one way or the other. In France, we have a very ambitious president who wants also some kind of change in the internal, maybe power structure, wants to put France at a more prominent place again, maybe profiting from the fact that Britain is leaving and France and Germany can remarry under more happy circumstances, question mark, but we'll hear more about this. Then we have the problems in the East, illiberal governance, the German-Polish relation is very bad. We heard about Viktor Orban, so there's a lot going on, and everybody wants to move on, change things. The Germans just want to keep things as they are. They feel very, very tied to the status quo. They are happy. They are afraid of change. Why is this so? Because Germany is the winner of the liberal international order. It is a winner of the US-led world order, which the new US defense strategy calls free and open international order, because liberal is not so sexy for the American right. So you cannot sell the idea of a liberal international order. For us Europeans, it's obvious. It means democracy, market economy, international cooperation. So free and open international order, we saw this, it has been built by the Americans since 1945, and then it has been enlarged after the fall of the Berlin Wall, 1989, enlarged and deepened, guaranteed by American leadership, based on democracy, rule of law, market economy, free trade, international cooperation. So this is the world where Germany is just thriving. It's happy. It is safe, it is prosperous, it is free, and the German question has been solved. European cooperation, Germany is firmly embedded. It has somehow delegated military affairs to others, NATO, outsourcing, and focusing on the economic and social issues, especially redistribution of the wealth that keeps on coming. nobody really knows why, but it's there. I mean, Germany is back with growth, and this is something that is certainly working, but it needs an international environment that is beneficial. And so there are 3 dimensions to this order, and all 3 dimensions are kind of becoming fragile. So one is the EU. So we probably all have read this article by Anne Applebaum in the Washington Post last year, where she said we're just 3 elections away from the breakdown of the West. Yeah, there was this sense with Marine Le Pen in France, Brexit. Will the whole European project unravel? Will it go away? Germany is quite happy that the French have elected Macron. So keeping the EU together is a major interest for Germany, and this requires to give something to France, to re-energize the German-Franco relationship, which is just happening. So France wants something on defense, on the Eurozone. So Germany will give something to France in order to keep its key European partner and neighbor happy. But it also needs to figure out what to do with Poland, because Germany is also a bridge between East and West in the EU, and Poland is a problem at this time, and the German-Polish relations are quite bad, which means Germany has no Eastern partner. Germany needs someone among the Visegrad countries, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic. Traditionally, or in the last years, before PiS came to power, Poland was the key interlocutor for Germany in the East. And we had, I have argued, we had some kind of Polonization of German foreign policy. You saw this with regard to sanctions on Russia, Ukraine, certainly a big interest in the East, but without Poland and with Hungary kind of moving further into this Orbanist illiberal world, it's becoming more difficult. So EU should not fall apart. Transatlantic relationship remains the backbone for transatlantic security, as Steinmeier has said in 2013. And even Sigmar Gabriel, the current foreign minister, recently said, Europe cannot defend itself without the US. So there's a clear awareness that Europe needs to keep the US engaged militarily. But it's difficult, of course. But I expect Merkel to re-engage with Trump, to do more, because in the last year she was kind of handicapped in Germany to build trustful relationship with the American president, which Macron is doing very successfully. And Macron is going to be the first big European leader who will be received in Washington. I expect once there's a German government, I could also say if there's a German government soon, I think Merkel will certainly figure out how to re-engage with the US. On a working level, relations are good with the National Security Council. And we also heard a lot from Stoltenberg. There is a lot of continuity, and if we look at what the Americans are doing, not at what Trump is tweeting, there should not be too much concern. But of course, he is tweeting, and so there is concern. And then the third pillar is globalization, open markets, free trade, the trade system that the Americans have built after 1945. It's, of course, vital for the German economy, as it is for the Chinese economy, by the way. And the new tone we get from Washington about trade, the idea that trade needs to be, that there needs to be an immediate return on trade, not just, you don't build a long-term system from which helps to stabilize a region. This is the idea that has driven U.S. international engagement after 1945. And I'm coming to the end. So this is certainly of big concern, but here we also see more efforts from the EU to build or to keep up the trade regime, building free trade agreements with Japan, which is almost ready to go, and then Mercosur, Mexico. So the trade order, the Europeans are pushing for keeping this alive, and then to conclude, the point for Germany is however, it cannot, do this alone, and it cannot do this with its current mindset. And this is, I think, that there is a problem we saw during the elections and also the coalition negotiations. International questions played almost no role. So Martin Schulz did not campaign on behalf of EU reform, even if this was his only major asset that he had. And we don't have much talk about the NATO 2% goal. When we hear something about it, it's rather playing it down. And the question is whether Germany is really ready and capable to fill out that role, to use its power or its power potential on behalf of this liberal international order from which it depends.